Looking for a way to make a statement without saying a word? Shop I Am All Things Clothier, the brand that lets your wardrobe do the talking. Our shirts aren't just clothing, they're bold declarations of who you are and where you're going. Whether you're crushing your goals, embracing self love, or simply looking to inspire, our designs keep you focused and stylish. So why just wear a shirt when you can wear your mindset? Visit IamEX313.com and choose the shirt that speaks to your journey today because you're more than just one thing. You're everything that you speak. Your circle will change as you accomplish your goals and level up. Everybody can't go. And we laugh. Happy Wednesday and welcome to another Everybody Can't Go Convo. I'm your host, Jessi Holley, and today we are going to continue diving just a little bit deeper into November. So, as I've been learning this week and some of the conversations that I've had, some of the things that I've talked through with a few of my coaches and got more information on, I had to take a look at being direct with your no. And I know sometimes for some of us, it's like, oh, be direct. Oh, no, I don't want to. Or some of us are like, oh, I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. There are so many reasons and so many emotions, so many feelings, so many different things behind not being direct with your no that kind of give other folks a warrant and or a license to continue to treat you in ways that do not serve you, do things that you don't necessarily care for, that you don't like, and also leaves open a lot of room for opportunity where you could be using healthy communication, advocating for yourself, building a deeper connection with those who want to also have a deep connection with you by learning more about you, learning more about the ways that you would or would not like to be treated, and also so that you're able to learn about others and the way they move, the things that they like, don't like, ways they would like to be treated or not, and respecting those boundaries and the behavior adjustments that need to come along with all of those things concerning both yourself and other people. So, for today, let's dig into it. So, we've been going for the past couple episodes talking about November, and we know that no, November, that NO is a capital N, capital O in quotes, because we are talking about the ways that no is a complete sentence and how you can find power in your no. And that doesn't have to be a bad thing. That doesn't have to be a negative thing. Can't feel uncomfortable. We might not like it. It might get a little bit hard sometimes to express it. And sometimes it's hard for other people to receive it from us, especially if we are known for and get used to being that person that always says just yes, yes, yes to everything. Or when we mean no, we just don't say anything at all. Oh, sometimes we just stay quiet to keep the peace when what we really mean is no. Or we could even mean no, thank you. But still, sometimes we don't voice what it is that we actually think. So, for today, when we're talking about being direct with your no, I took a couple of notes down and I just wanted to run through 5 points with you guys really quick that I kind of thought out as I had different conversations this week, as I attended coaching sessions this week, and as I had conversations with people whom I am close to, and also reflected on the some issues or challenges that I've had in the past and taking a look at how I could approach it, and also taking a look at acceptance for how it was either received or the actions of other people. Remember, I always talk about boundaries, but we do have to constantly keep our minds on and pay attention to whether or not we're internalizing the actions of someone else and the expected outcomes. We can't project our expectations onto other people when we're communicating boundaries or communicating what our no is, but we also can't be in our feelings about the choices that other people make, especially when we are putting our best foot forward and coming to have that conversation. Which leads me to number one. So, the first thing that I thought about, and it was kind of like universal throughout this week, when you have a challenge or issue with another person, if you feel like they have an ought against you, you have an ought against them, go to the person directly and don't wait. Just go straight to them, have the conversation. Don't go to four other people telling your story or trying to garner sympathy or sharing with everyone but the person that you need to actually have the conversation with. And sometimes that's hard because we feel that we are already in conflict and then bringing conflict directly to someone else. Now, the thing that I find that even though you may still be uncomfortable, you may be able to take some solace in this. When you are bringing that issue or challenge directly to the person that you have an issue or a challenge with, you are going to them with the intent of coming to a solution. If and when you are not looking for a solution, you have every reason in the world to go to all of these other people, to not be direct in having the conversation. And sometimes it could just be, is it you? Are you choosing violence? Are you choosing the drama? Are you choosing foolishness? Now, if you are, whether it has been consciously or subconsciously, whether you have done that intentionally or unintentionally, now that we know better, we can do better. And remember, I say we because this goes for me too. And as long as we are staying consistent and we are staying on top of how we're able to grow ourselves as individuals, we can always turn over a new leaf and or find ways to improve ourselves so that we are able to teach other people how to treat us and so that we're ultimately able to step up to our next level of becoming who God designed you to be. And I'm sure that that is an amazing person. Not that you're not amazing already, but there's always room for improvement. So let's go ahead and work into that area. So be sure that you are reaching out for that conversation and a solution. Sometimes it may take more than one conversation to get to that final solution that is a win-win for everyone. By no means am I telling you to go into a situation where you have to leave accepting a win lose so that the conflict can be over, so that it can be quote unquote resolved. By doing that, and sometimes what you end up doing is creating and or breeding resentment between yourself and the other person. Or if you're the one that's always taking the L, you're gonna be having a whole bunch of resentment by yourself. And if and when that comes to a head, because you just keep letting it pile up, and pile up, that's where you start to have outbursts. That's where you are already full to the brim. You start to express yourself explosively. Sometimes you implode and completely shut down. You say nothing. You isolate, draw back, and stay away from others that you should be having these conversations with. So, the next thing that you need to do after you either pick up that phone or you approach a person face to face, not hostily approaching face to face. That's just a side note. But make sure that you are effectively communicating your issue. Sometimes when we come to communicate our issue, we talk about a whole bunch of feelings and just all this stuff. Make sure that you are clearly and effectively communicating what the issue is. And you can add how it made you feel, but make sure that you talk about the specific instance as well as the feelings that you had afterwards. You may want to use language like, I didn't like when XYZ. It didn't make me feel great when XYZ. I was negatively affected in this way because of XYZ behaviors. In the future, I would like to be treated like insert what you would have rather to see as an outcome in said situation. When you're talking about how you would like to be treated instead of the treatment that you received, make sure that you're approaching this calm, level-headed, and that you're having this conversation, you know, with on neutral ground, with a neutral tone, and or even if you do feel like you're in enemy territory behind enemy lines, still make sure that you stay cool, calm, collected, and make sure that you are communicating directly, effectively, and clearly. We want to stay a little bit in logic, even though we're talking about feelings, because when we let facts fall by the wayside because we are too much in our feelings, we aren't going to get as far as we'd like to. We aren't going to get as far as we intended to. So remember, when you're approaching this situation, you are going to exercise that facts over feelings, and you're going to look at the facts of the situation. And for a moment, we're going to have to put our feelings in our pocket if we're really trying to get to a solution or resolution. And then make sure that you give the other person a chance to respond. Sometimes when we reach out for someone else to have a difficult conversation, to have a crucial conversation, to have what one of my mentors, ET, shout out to E, likes to call a needed conversation, a required conversation. When those convos need to happen with another person, sometimes the other person may need a bit more time. It's perfectly okay for you to accept that if you so choose. And also, when you are giving the other person a chance to gather their own thoughts so that you can have said conversation, you don't have to wait forever. You don't have to wait forever for the other person to finally get ready for the conversation that needs to be had. If they continue to blow you off about having said conversation, that is okay too. Sometimes the lack of an answer, the lack of having a conversation, that tells you everything you need to know right then and there. Do be sure that you give that other person a chance to reach back out to you, a chance to circle back to you. You can decide, depending on the severity of the occurrence, of the challenge, of the issue, you can decide how long is enough time for you to give the other person to respond back to you once you have reached out and made it known that you would like to have a conversation about whatever said issue is. And then uh, we can kind of round it out. If the other person chooses drama, if they choose to stay stuck on stupid, it's okay to leave it there. You don't have to incessantly chase another person for closure or so that you just have to have this conversation. Again, the lack of a conversation, interest in having a conversation and or circling back with you to have the conversation, that is indicative of some of the answers that you need to know right there. And it's okay to let that go. It's okay to let go of conversations that you attempted to have but the other person was not receptive. The other person did not want to. The other person set a boundary. And boundaries are for who? Boundaries are for you, not to control other people's actions. The same is true for any and everyone else. If the other person chose to communicate nonverbally a boundary, or whether they told you straight out that their boundary is, or a boundary is that they don't want to have this conversation, you can take that, okay, and move accordingly. So you get to choose if that door will be left open or if you will revisit the conversation in the future. You get to choose whether or not you will, just let things have a breather. You choose whether or not you'll just, okay, enough time has passed, so I'll pretend like that didn't happen. But what I will say is, if and when you take that route, do pay attention to whether or not you're going to be resentful that that is the choice that you made. If you are going to make the choice to not have a difficult conversation and come to a resolution or solution for an issue, if you choose to not have that conversation, you also choose how things will go with you from there forward. It's not the other person's responsibility to take ownership of your inner resentment because you chose to quote unquote let it go. Instead of doing the hard thing and bringing back up, hey, remember that conversation that I said I wanted to have? We do still need to have that conversation. If the other person isn't receptive to having that conversation because they'd like to skip over it, you get to choose whether or not you're just going to say, you know what, it's not worth it. Okay, fine. I don't recommend, in my humble opinion, that if it really does mean that much to you, I don't necessarily recommend that you just say, okay, whatever, and quote unquote, let it go. And I'm doing finger quotes because if it means that much to you and you're letting it go, let's be real, you're not letting it go. You're just taking that thing, you're folding it up really small, and you're trying to bury it and push it down deep into your psyche and your heart and your body, whatever. You are taking that thing that is important to you, something that was very impactful for you, or something that affected you greatly, and you're teaching yourself that, well, as long as I give it time, my feelings don't matter. As long as I give it time, I'll just be able to get over it. But are you paying attention to the things that you need for you to actually not just get over it, but for you to work through it, grow through it, and grow past it? It's not a form of healthy communication to just continuously pack away all of these things, and the resolution being that, like, you always got to take a L. Now, will you have to take a L from time to time? Sure. If it's something that, you were mildly annoyed, but it really doesn't make that big of a difference to you, then, you might take a L here and there. But for these things that it really is like, if you're still thinking about it, you should probably have a conversation about it. If you're still thinking about it, you probably should. And if the other party's involved or other party involved doesn't want to have that conversation, then it's up to you to choose what you will do with that as your answer. Every issue doesn't require the quote unquote closure of having to have a conversation with someone where a relationship either needs to take a turn, and I won't say a turn for the worst, I'll just say a turn off of its current path. Sometimes, we talk about that reason, season, lifetime. Sometimes when reasons or seasons are changing for both yourself and others, there need to be adjustments. Because I mean, if you are headed to a destination, the destination is still the destination. How you get there, if you are rerouting, if you need to make a turn, you may not still be on that same path, on the same wavelength, on the same type of time with the other person or people involved. That's why, you know what we say, everybody can't go. Because sometimes you do have to take a different path. You may need to take a different route. And during that time, you may also need to have adjustments to the relationship dynamic. You may need to show up differently, and showing up differently may mean that there needs to be less of your presence to maintain a connection. You may need to stop showing up for certain people in a way that is draining you, in a way that is negatively impacting you, and in a way that is harmful to you. Some of those things can be avoided with what we're talking about today by making sure that we're direct with our no, which that is a responsibility of your own to be direct with your no. You can't be responsible for how the other person responds when you deliver your no, but you are responsible for delivering your no. And you can still deliver that with love. At bare minimum, you can deliver that no with neutrality. It's not always going to be comfortable, not just for you. It also may be uncomfortable for the other person. But it is okay for you to be empowered in being able to directly communicate your no, period, communicate your complete sentence, and to be able to deliver it with love or neutrality. It doesn't have to be delivered in a negative way, nor does it have to be delivered in a negative way or with negative connotation. You can also stay in that area of neutrality when you are delivering your message or letting someone else know that there is an issue or a challenge that you'd like to talk through with them. And talking through these issues and or challenges with another person, that is a part of being direct. Make sure that you're practicing those, you're examining the facts, not the feelings, just looking at those facts first, so that you're able to stay neutral, level-headed, and so that in your assessment of the things that transpired, so that you're able to be fair. Not only fair with how you communicate to the other person, but also being fair with yourself. Sometimes when we let those emotions and those feelings creep into a situation where we are in fact upset about the facts of what happened, if we're only focusing on those feelings, we begin to communicate those facts to other people in a way that is not loving, it's not caring, in a way that is not conducive to getting to the solution. And sometimes it may cause us to go all the way off the handle, all the way off the rails, because we're delivering a message that you may 100% be right, but delivering that message with aggression, with a negative tone, without being mindful of the words that you're using to describe what happened in your experience of an issue or challenge, sometimes it may not be received the best. And because we are the visionaries and we're the ones that are working on ourselves, unfortunately, sometimes we take on that bit of an extra burden because we're able to put ourselves in others' shoes. Where many times you will find that the other person that you're trying to speak with, even if you point it out to them and you tell them to, they aren't going to put themselves in your shoes. To whom much is given, much is required. And because we have a bit of extra knowledge, a bit of extra self help, self care, and development, and because we're not just going through life, we're growing through life, there will be some additional tools, techniques, additional thoughts, and things that we know that sometimes other folks just won't have it. That's one of those small L's that I said sometimes we're going to have to take. But remember, you get to choose. You have the responsibility, but you also have the knowledge to be able to make the best decision for you. Even if the thing that is best for you feels uncomfortable, even if there's a bit of friction involved, you can always get to a solution. You can always get to a resolution. I can't promise you that that solution or resolution will be 100% within your expectations and exactly what you wanted, but I can let you know that as long as you're paying attention to some of the things that we talked about today, you'll be able to make the decision that is the best for you in the long run, and that you won't be kind of harboring that additional resentment, and you won't have to walk around with a chip on your shoulder or some extra attitude, because you can go ahead and get that solution, get that resolution. And sometimes that solution is to take a step back, and that is okay. So we will see you guys next week. It is almost time for the next holiday. And remember, this November, find the power in your no. It's a complete sentence. Shout out to Mel T as always. And be sure that you are exercising those tips that I gave you today. Being direct, making that call straight away, setting and explaining that boundary. Make sure that you are communicating that boundary effectively. And finally, put a time limit or put a due date on it. Don't just wait around forever being upset at someone else. And finally, make sure that you remember you get to choose. You get to choose to do every step of what we talked about today, and or you get to choose not to and hold in all of those other negative emotions that can come with choosing not to. It's all up to you. So we'll see you guys next week, and thanks for tuning in for another Everybody Can't Go Convo. Calling all Gen X women writers. Do you have a book inside of you just waiting to be written? It's time to stop sitting on that dream and start smiling at your completed manuscript. Join us for an unforgettable, fully immersive weekend retreat designed to take you from stuck to published. From March 14th through 16th, 2025, at a luxurious retreat home in Orlando, Florida, you'll be guided step by step by best-selling authors, experienced publishers, and your writing coach, Melissa T, who's authored 8 books and helped countless writers become bestsellers. This is your chance to unshackle the story that's been living inside of you for months or even years and release your voice to the world. Because when you share your words, you change lives one page at a time. Secure your spot today and get ready to write the book you were born to create. Save your spot now. Click the link below.